Mics are on.
Chair will entertain a motion to come out of executive session.
Motion.
I second the
We
motion.
have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Chair will entertain a motion to seal the minutes of executive session.
Motion.
I second the motion.
We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries. We are now out of executive session. I would like to bring a roll call for the town council meeting.
Kerry McGee,
Yeah.
Greg LaBoissoniere,
Yep.
Deb Bacon,
Here.
Gary Cody,
Here.
Ian Dixon,
Here.
Nicholas Gorham,
Here.
Ed Wazika.
Present.
Okay, I'd ask that we all stand for Pledge of Allegiance, please.
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I ask that you remain standing, whoever wants to, and Councilman LaBoissoniere will give us an invocation.
Dear Lord, please look over us. Want to pray for the folks in Paris for the tragedy at the Cathedral of Notre Dame today during Holy Week. It'll affect people all over the world. And please prepare us for this meeting to act for the best interests of the people. And we pray in your name. Amen.
Amen. Emergency evacuation plan, Town Sergeant. I didn't prepare much of President's comments except a couple things. It's budget season, and we've had several budget hearings, and unfortunately, not as big of a turnout as I would like to see for our taxpayers. But very important budget season, very difficult budget season coming out. So we are going to have an opportunity tonight to discuss some more. And next Monday, I believe, if I'm correct, Mr. Manager, next Monday we adopted the budget. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes, if we'll try to adopt it.
We're trying to adopt the budget.
Okay, besides that, I think that's it. I see the CERT team, I'm welcome to the CERT team here. That's great to see you guys all volunteering for the town, so, that's all I have for President's comments. So the chair will, item number 3, the chair will entertain a motion to approve of the council meetings for March 25th and April 1st. And just so I know, I will abstain from 25th because I was absent at that meeting, so.
Sure.
Chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
All right, well, we should take them individually then. So I move that we approve the minutes of March 25th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Just abstaining.
Okay.
Ayes have it. Okay.
Motion to approve the minutes of April 1st.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
I second it.
We have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Okay, certificates of recognition, this is item number 4, completion of a CERT team basic training program. Okay, can I have up front, Mark, excuse me if I mispronounce your name, Mark Bohall, Michael Brault, Shannon Earl, Trisha Ferriman, Shelley Grambley, Jack Mann, Shelley Martinez, Alicia Parento, and Joshua Sargent. Would you all come right up here so you can face the people? More walking for you, huh? Watch your step, there's a step.
Yeah, you have to tell her that.
So that's the half step that'll get her.
Are you the CERT team leader?
Yes, I am.
Maybe you could just give a little explanation, because I'm not real versed on what the CERT does and just what it's all about, so the taxpayers are able to know, and then I'll read out the accomplishment.
My name is Bob Petrarca. About 2011, the CERT team, the Community Emergency Response Team, was started by Battalion Chief Bill Hall. We get together on a monthly basis and on sometimes even more to meet and train to deal with all things related to emergency response and community activism. We have deployed on several occasions for civic events. We've been involved in a lot of things out of town, in town, wherever we can lend a hand and provide a service to the community. This is actually the first time that we've gotten together with our first basic training class that we've done in over 4 years. So this is a good thing. We've increased our size almost double in the past year, and we're just looking forward to doing more.
It's a great program. We utilize the CERT team, I believe it was the floods, and it's been a lot of time to utilize them. So the Town of Coventry, State of Rhode Island, and Providence Plantations Certificate of Completion in honor of outstanding performance. The Town Council, on behalf of the Town of Coventry, presents this award to Joshua Grant. Alicia Parento, Shelley Martinez, Jack Mann, Shelley Grantley, Trish Furman, Shannon Earl, Michael Blow,
Not it.
Mark Bohol. And that's it. I thank you very much for almost.
She's only got one crutch.
I'm borrowing your crutch. I appreciate the time you put in, the effort. I know it was a good program, and we look forward to hopefully we can utilize you in the emergencies. But I'm glad you're there, and glad you took the time out to learn this. You would kindly come around here and meet the council.
Right here, you gotta run the gauntlet.
That's
Yeah,
it.
you gotta do.
We get spanked or just shake our hands?
Just shake your hand.
Okay.
Run the line there. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you. You good and you? Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, once again, thank you for the effort you guys put into doing this program. Okay, the next item on the agenda. Yeah, I'll give them all a chance to leave, yeah. Can you give them the clip? Okay, the next item on the agenda, C1. Madam Clerk, would you be so kind?
Coventry Land Company versus Town of Coventry, CA number KC 2018-1429, approval of proposed consent judgment and indemnity agreement.
Okay, Mr. Solicitor, would you be so kind as to explain this?
Carrie, before we start, I just need to recuse myself.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, this has to do with the Oak subdivision and the consent judgment that was entered with the Supreme Court in 2007, which mandated a number of conditions. Since then, the parties have come to a different agreement. The only way to change the consent order and to reconcile it with the findings of the planning board and the approvals that they gave is to either litigate the matter or to enter this consent order. This has been discussed before by the council. This, I believe, reflects the preference of the council at the various closed sessions that we had where we discussed this. So I cannot go through the highlights, but I think it's simply to allow the council to indulge a discussion if they wish.
Yeah, I know we've had quite a few meetings and spoke about it. It's, you want to give it a little bit of, this is your district, you actually go to a lot of the meetings and got discussed.
Yeah, well, it's been going on for quite some time now. There were proposals that the developer had made to the council under the previous manager, which we couldn't come to agreement through doing it, but when it went back to litigation, we found that the best way to just make this stop and it based itself on a couple of the lots up there. To make a long story short, we will. The town will actually be paid $57,500 for one of the lots for the rights for the builder to deviate from the plan on there, and then another $50,000 on another lot. But that one will come to fruition if the plans. Now, what was it? The planning commission needs approvals on that second lot. If he would need that, so we would not receive that funding until his approvals to build on that lot, which were previously set aside for connection of the road, which went in a different direction. So that there really is no need to leave that lot there for an emergency road, which now the road just takes a different direction. That's pretty much it.
And we had discussed, we would rather see the house built and get on our tax rolls and have the money coming in for us.
That's been my feeling all along, absolutely.
Is there any other comments, questions from the council?
I just have one
comment, and that is that when we discuss this, we are recommending that, I would like to recommend that any money received for the elimination of the affordable housing unit be given to the Housing Authority. It's just a recommendation on my part to the council, and I hope that at some point when we have closure on this consent agreement, that we would be able to consider that request.
Well, I also, we had mentioned too in discussion that one of the lots was going to be scheduled for a playground, and our playgrounds in our town are in deplorable condition, and I would like one of those lots also to go to repair some of the playgrounds that are in our district. So, you know, if we're gonna do that, I'd like to earmark, you know, one payment for Hodge Fine, the next payment I would like to.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. President, I think that's a decision that the council has to make after the agreement is entered into and approved by the judge. I would say that on a future agenda, we would be able to address that, and I think you're right. I think part of the settlement in lieu of the tot lot that was going to be built at the development, that those proceeds should go to upgrade and maintain what Parks and Recreation currently has. And I agree with what Ann's saying about the affordable housing units, because I know that's also involved in this settlement. And God only knows that Coventry Housing Authority needs all the help they can get as far as financially.
And I realize we can't, you know, vote where the money goes tonight, but at least just ideas I'm throwing out there. So, Mr. Manager here, still here, Madam Clerk, if you just make note of that, you know, when it comes time, this actually, we'll make an agenda item. and
Yeah,
discuss
because
it.
the funding would be, you know, not necessarily derived for the second lot until he gets approvals, et cetera, and it's conveyed. So at a point in the future, we will derive those funds. And I love the suggestions. I think it's, you know, again, it's something that we need to put those funds to the areas that supposedly may have been earmarked for. So I agree.
Mr. Solicitor, you have
Oh,
something?
just one other point. Someone brought up whether the judge will enter it. The judge, Judge Leach, who's sitting in Kent County right now on the civil calendar, has indicated he will enter this consent order. So they always have the right to change their mind, and sometimes they do. But the indication I had before bringing this to the council is that he approved of it. So this should be.
With that being said, I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Okay, and I will second
We
that.
have a motion and we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda, Madam Clerk, C2, please.
Approval of fee agreement of John Coletti, 2018-2021 as tax sale counsel/assistant solicitor.
I'm gonna just explain this one section.
Okay, Mr. Solicitor, would you like to discuss the agreement? We've all got a copy and had a chance to look it over. Is this pretty standard? Have you used these people, this gentleman in the past, or?
If the tax collector were here, I'm pretty confident she would be singing the praises of Mr. Coletti. She wanted to bring him in and to advise her on the tax sale process and so forth and prepare the deeds. And he's done a very good job with her since he started. I think it was last fall. If not, I think it was last fall, but she's been very pleased. Because the charter requires that anyone doing legal work for the town be appointed an assistant solicitor, under the charter, I thought I needed to bring this before you because it can be with my recommendation, but of course, it's always up to the council to approve. So there is an agreement about the services to be rendered. There is one change which does not reflect the actual agreement reached, and I apologize. There's something about Microsoft Word tracking changes that I still can't figure out why some changes that you thought you took out are still in there. And one of them is in paragraph 6. Mr. Coletti wanted to have control over the preparation of deeds, which I think is a laudable request. If I could
Paragraph
just,
6, you said, Mr. Solicitor?
yeah, paragraph 6.
Okay.
Just one moment. The language about the, that redeemers on the second paragraph of part 6 should be removed. So all of the blue language in paragraph 6.
Yeah, but it's
Oh, you just have the, okay,
it's a
the
lighter.
lower part of the page, that should be removed. Other than that, the agreement is exactly as I agreed to with Mr. Coletti.
That's where not be
And-
responsible for the costs incurred, that was,
Right, right. And I apologize that this agreement, for some reason, still has changes that we were negotiating in it. But other than that, it reflects the agreement.
You're comfortable
Yes,
with
I'm
this?
comfortable with this.
Legally, You've
and I'm-
worked with this gentleman before?
Yes.
Or you're familiar with them?
We're
'Cause I'm
working
not a
with him
lawyer, and,
right now.
I would like to see a corrected contract before we vote on that.
Okay, well,
And so you hired Coletti back on October 26, 2018?
right.
And it's just coming to council now?
Yes, and if you like, I can explain. If you,
That would be wonderful.
that was the last town council meeting before the election. And after the election, I think the newest council members were sworn in late November, if I'm not mistaken. And quite frankly, it's been pretty brisk since then. And I got this before the council as quickly as I could. We've had some rather major issues that you've taken up, including the one that we just approved, the Coventry Land Company, Oak Subdivision, the Center of New England, and some other matters. So that's it. It's taken a little while to get it on the agenda, but it's a.
Have we received any invoices from them?
I don't think that he bills the town directly. What happens with tax sale representation is that the attorney, such as Mr. Coletti, who conducts the tax sales, is paid through the tax sale process. His fees are charged against the properties putting up for tax sale, against the people who redeem after a tax sale, and so forth. Those costs are not borne by the town because the entire concept of the tax sale process is to make the town whole so that it collects the taxes plus costs and interest. so that the town is in the same position it would have been in had the person who failed to pay their taxes paid them. Does that make sense? So,
I think that Councilwoman Bacon's request makes sense. I think we could prepare a little better and have a.
I apologize.
Understand it, and that way we
Yes.
can look it over again, and is it not gonna be a problem? If we wait this
No.
long, so we go at the next meeting, it's not a problem. So I guess the chair will. You have
Yeah,
any
I do, no, I
questions?
just have, so Mr. Coletti has been working without a contract then, because what we have in front of us, nothing signed or dated, so he's been,
working with, well, I can tell you that I think for a long time before that, I don't know if the town council has ever approved a council for tax sales. I thought it was important to do it.
I don't
When I
ever
came
remember
in,
doing it.
when I came into office in September 2014, there was already someone fulfilling that role. And when the tax collector indicated that she wanted to change, I said, that's fine, select someone you can work with, and she did. And it was Mr. Coletti. And I just felt that when I read the charter, since this individual, this attorney, was being appointed under my tenure as town solicitor, I was going to do it the right way. And so I insisted that this be approved by the town council before it became officially effective. I can tell you, yes, he is doing work right now because it has to get done.
and I understand, I guess what I'm concerned about, are the rates. You know, were they negotiated? Are these the rates
They
that
were
he's charging?
negotiated. They were negotiated with the
Okay.
tax collector and with me.
So from
And again,
October until till it gets on before council, these are the rates that he,
no, the rates the rates that he is charging, I believe, are equal to or less than this. I know they're not more than what's in the agreement. And again, I apologize. I meant to have the actual agreement with me. I don't. For reasons I can't explain other than the confusion engendered by Microsoft track changes.
You know,
That's all
I
can
think
say.
I can symbolize I think I can make it a lot simpler for everybody. Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion that we table this until we are provided by our solicitor with an updated contract with the correct numbers on it.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, you have a
I
discussion?
still have a discussion point to make about what I'm seeing before me, before we table this.
Okay, well, I mean, you could table it and you can discuss it with the solicitor before, when it comes up to, we're not making a decision on it tonight, so.
No, I know.
Maybe you could discuss it with him, and when it's brought up to us next time, well, we can have, you know.
I would like to bring up this point now.
Okay, go ahead.
I would like to bring up this point now so that if it bears some consideration, it could be incorporated in some way into the copy that we are given for
go
approval.
ahead.
And that is in section number 2. It says that Coletti shall report all complaints, claims, disputes, or other issues arising from or relating to the work, et cetera. There is no time period listed here whatsoever. And when we have things like these statements and they're all open-ended, nothing happens. So I'd like to recommend that we put in some kind of time period such as shall report on a quarterly basis or more often as needed, all reports of complaints, et cetera. Because that way we can hold that person or Mr. Coletti accountable for reporting to us any problems.
Well, this, we can put in immediately, but, you know, as an attorney, you have certain obligations that you have to fulfill, and you are regulated by the Supreme Court of Rhode Island in the way that you diligently pursue your duties. And quite frankly, if you don't report matters immediately to your client, you're in big trouble. I can assure you of that. And in this particular paragraph, that's language that I insisted on putting in. And it was more for me, so that if I knew, or if there was any trouble with any tax sale or any issue at all arising from the work that Mr. Coletti did, I wanted to know about it. He has a duty to report it to his client. I just wanted to make sure that it was directed to me so I would know. And then my obligation to this council as it has always been, is to report it to you immediately, depending on the severity of the issue or infraction, if you will.
So
But
you feel comfortable that you will be getting reports on a timely basis?
I feel comfortable that even without this language, it would be incumbent on him to report those things to me, because in the end, for legal matters, the buck stops with me. I'm the solicitor. But I put the language in anyway because I always like redundancy. So I can put immediately. I don't mind adding that as language. Immediately, I think, makes it very clear there's not to be any delay.
I feel
Would that-
comfortable with that. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, is there any other comments here? So we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carried. Item tabled. Okay, next section is section D, licenses for discussion and action. Madam Clerk, would you actually read the whole thing for us? I think we'll take it all at once.
Pelagi's 2000 Incorporated, doing business as Pelagi's Ice Cream. Alex Algier, 237 Suffolk Avenue, ice cream truck. Casa Tia Rosa LLC, Manuel A. Leander, 14 Jennifer Lane, food truck. JoJo's Cupcake LLC, doing business as JoJo's Cupcake, Joanne Diorio, 77 Isle of Capri Road, cupcake truck.
Okay, before I entertain a motion, are there any concerns, any discussions that you might want to have? Yes.
I
Councilwoman
just
Baker.
have on, I'm just looking, JoJo's Cupcakes, dates of operation, that's blank. Casa di Rosa, dates of operation, that is also blank. And did they pay any fee? And
$50
that's it, those are the two questions.
Okay, Pelagia's ice cream, you said was blank? I didn't catch that. Where,
No. Casa di Rosa, there's no, under license detail, there's no dates of operation, and I'm not sure if the fee was paid. And with JoJo Cupcakes, also dates of operation is blank.
So all of the fees have been paid.
And they're 90, are they 90 day?
They're 90 day.
90 day. Okay.
Yes, they're all 90 day.
and I think with the exception of, I think there's one new one, I don't remember Casa Tia Rosa, but all the other ones have appeared to us before.
Yeah.
And I see that the only concern was, there was some sales permit applicants changing from a sole proprietor to LLC, which is Casa Tia Rosa, and the Department of Health License and Retail said the permits are pending, so everything will be pending receiving those permits, obviously.
I know it's 90 days, but I think we need a start date.
From the date it's approved, I would think, from 4/15, is that?
Would it be,
I think date it's approved.
okay.
Okay, so some date approved. So now that we have a little explanation, I'm gonna entertain a motion that we accept these, I'm gonna entertain a motion. for the licenses.
Motion to accept with the caveat that everything be provided from the
stipulations, yeah.
Department of Health before issuance.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
I second the motion.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is Section E, resolution for discussion or action. Madam Clerk, would you take E1, please?
Resolution authorizing the interim town manager of the Town of Coventry to award a bid and execute a contract for 2019 summer recreation bus.
Okay, I see our Parks and Rec director is here. to
Hi, everyone.
explain.
Good evening. So we received 3 bids. One was just excessive, so that was not in question. There was 2 that came in. One, first appearance seemed that it was less money. However, it included mileage on top of an hourly rate. And the second one that I provided, the one I want to go with, is just an hourly rate. So it's actually cheaper in the long run. And it's also the bus company we used last year, and they've been fantastic.
Okay, I mean, I looked it over and I did notice, I picked up on that, no mileage rate, it was just a flat fee,
Right.
which is good. Is there any concerns, any discussion from the council?
I'm curious to know, how much did this contract cost us last year?
Approximately 45 to 55,000. However, we're adding additional field trips, which will come out of the fees for the programs. So it could be excessive of 55, 65,000 this year.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, if there's no questions, the chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to
Second.
approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Motion
Thank you.
carries. Thank you, Elena. Madam Clerk, item E2, please.
Appointing 2 members to the Coventry Library Board of Trustees.
Could we have Barbara Bridge and John Ball please come up forward?
Can we vote first?
Yeah, you know, that's a good idea. I'm jumping the gun. Okay.
I would like to-
We did just have executive session.
I would like to
Okay.
make a motion that we appoint both people that we interviewed in executive session.
Okay.
By name, by name. You named them,
Their names,
the names, for the record, otherwise it's both people.
John Ball and Barbara Bridge.
John Ball and Barbara Bridge.
And we have a motion and we have a second. I apologize for jumping the gun. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it, motion carried. Now we can come forward. There's something in a hurry. You solemnly swear that you will be true and faithful to the state, support the laws and the Constitution thereof, and that you will well and truly execute the duties and the responsibilities as a member of the Library Board of Trustees for the term in which you are appointed or until another be engaged in your place, so help you God. I do. Congratulations, thank you very much. Come to the council.
Thank you. All right, thank you very much. Thank you. We appreciate this very much. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you again. Okay, Madam Clerk, E3, if you would be so kind as to read that.
President of the Town Council to nominate a member of the Board of Canvassers per Rhode Island General Law 17-8-1 from a list submitted by the respective chairpersons of the town political committees.
Okay, I do have a list, and just for the people's information, I'm gonna read the list of, who was nominated by both the Republican and the Democratic, chairs, and it's the Court of
Who's on?
It's on. Surprised I have a big mouth. And according to the Rhode Island general laws, it's a nomination that made from the president of the council. So from the CRTC, there was Elaine DeWolf, Irene Drew, Sherry Elderkin, Charlotte Porter, and Nancy Sullivan. And from the Democratic Party, there was Evelyn Inman, Andrew Ben Pera, William Marcotte, Scott Guthrie, and James O'Connor. I would like to exercise my right at this time to make a motion to accept Billy Marcotte as the
I'd like to second that motion.
Congresses. Okay, we have a second, we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Mr. Marcotte, would you please come up? Raise your right hand, please. You solemnly swear that you will be true and faithful to the state, support the laws and constitution thereof, and that you will well and truly execute the duties and responsibilities as a member of the Board of Canvassers for the term in which you are appointed or until another is engaged in your place, so help you God. Thank you very much, Bill, appreciate it. He's done a outstanding job. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is item 4, E4, Madam Clerk.
Approval of sewer tie-in, 533 Washington Street, plat 55, lot 52.
Okay, are there any discussions before I entertain a motion? Are there any discussions from any members from the sewer subcommittee?
Well, we approved this at the sewer subcommittee meeting last Wednesday. And again, they came before us, answered any questions, and it was recommended to approve the tie-in to the council.
Okay, are there any questions from the council before I entertain a motion? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to maintain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Okay, the next item on the agenda is public comment. Also, at public comment, we're gonna entertain people to speak about the budget. We've given plenty of opportunities for budget hearings. I think the town manager's prepared to give a slight, talk about what, I asked at the last budget hearing to, let us know the detrimental effect that it would have on the town and the schools if this budget didn't pass. And I just want him to give a brief explanation of it before I invite anybody from the public to come up. And, then we can discuss the budget and anything else that you guys feel like need to talk. So, Mr. Manager, if you would be so kind.
Thank you. You had tasked me with determining what our budget would look like if we had to go with a zero budget increase. So under normal circumstances, it would have just been going back and getting each department to try and drop their budget down by approximately 7% or so to get that percentage off. The problem with that is most of our departments are very little material except for DPW. Every one of the departments, their primary expenses is bodies and people. So it came down to a question of two ways to do this. If we looked at the bodies and we looked at reducing it across the board, we're looking at eliminating 20 positions to come up with a $1.3 million reduction. The problem with that is we then, on top of that, have 26 weeks of unemployment to also take care of, which we don't have in the budget because we're at a zero budget increase. That would have required an additional 5 to 7 employees to cover that cost. So anywhere between 25 and 27 employees ballparking on layoffs to try and get this budget down to the 1.3. So when you look at that, it's really an impossibility of doing it that way. So the only other option that we really have is you have to look at and analyze the town, what services, what are the essential services of the town? What are the essential things that need to be done? What are the services that are nice to have, the benefits and all of that we everybody takes advantage of and uses every day, even though they're not mandatory and part of keeping the roads clear, repairing the roads, picking up the trash, providing police services. I'm not going to go into detail as to which departments, but when I looked at in departments that are, and when I say departments, I should say programs, not departments, programs of various departments that would allow me to minimize the number of people lost and increase the number of the amount of money saved in materials and programs. I looked at two in particular, and again, I don't want to go in and start mentioning what they are because all that's going to do is scare people, make it look like it's with scare tactics. It's not. But we're looking at, by doing it that way, I could eliminate two programs within the town. One would save about $650,000 a year and cost approximately 5 employees. The other one would save about $550,000 a year and cost 4 employees. So we're right ballpark on where it needs to be, with the least disruption of services to the core functions of the town. The problem with that is when you start removing programs and start trying to balance a budget by doing this, you're really destroying the fabric of the town. You're destroying what the town is about. If we take it and go that route, and we're forced to go that route, which we would if it comes to a zero increase, but the things that make this town a special town are going to go away. Because it's that or laying off 27 people, which means nothing can get done. Departments would be devastated. You're unable to operate that way. At least by eliminating the programs, you can still operate, still get the core functions that we need to accomplish on a daily basis done. But neither option is the way to do this. This is not what we need to do. This town, I hate to say it because I've never been one for going and looking at the cap as where we need to approach. But this year, especially because of the mandatory increases that we're facing in this budget, on both sides, the school as well as the town, we have no options. We cannot, if we are forced to do this, we are not going to be able to operate. It is going to be devastating to this town to be able to reduce these budgets down to a flat budget over the equivalent to the current fiscal year.
And it would also have the same effect on the schools. I think.
It would devastate them as well.
I just want to, like I said, we're not trying to scare anybody. We just want to know, there's a lot of work put in this budget, and no one likes tax increases. We pay them, just like everybody else, and, but we're trying to get this town stable, and, Mr. Labassa there had made a good point the other day, because there's all kinds of misinformation, like on Facebook and going on social media again. I just wish people would come to these meetings and find out the facts, and, rather than listen to social media, because there's a lot of information that's not correct. So you would just want to make a comment about what we're hearing on social media about raises and so on.
Well, I mean, you see a lot of opposition. Of course, anytime there is a proposed tax increase, there are oppositions to that. But I've had some just personal comments made to me that the salary increases have just been way too much. Obviously, people will look at the schools and they'll say that, geez, the salary increases are millions, and of course they're looking at the whole body of work. But and again, looking at the contractual increases that were put on the schools as the fault that the people didn't do their job in negotiating and the things, which my argument is that they've already been negotiated. That's part of what we need to do. The increases that have, for instance, even on the school side, 96% of the budget, as I mentioned the other day, are salaries, benefits, and purchase services. So when you have to make a cut, it's a serious cut. It's all bodies. The only thing that that really concerns me is the fact that we've spoken so many times about the capital needs that we need on the municipal side and the school side. And in this budget, there's not a dime that's put in for the capital needs. The schools have requested another, I believe about $553,000 there that is, is just not in the funding anywhere, which there are reimbursements that come from the state, et cetera, on those capital needs. That they're not even in this budget. And that's what concerns me, is that we're forsaking, in essence, the assets, the physical assets of the town, the real assets. I understand that the people who work for us are assets of the town, and our employees and teachers and administration and et cetera. But we have some, again, a very difficult decision to make, because people are very, very concerned with the, with adding 4% no matter what to the taxes. I don't know how else to.
Yeah, I've heard
stay
some
on.
negative things about, like, for instance, last year when we negotiated with the teachers union, we were actually able, it was approved by the school committee and myself and Mr. LaFosse, sat down with the teachers union and actually negotiated another 0.5% off, so everybody has been working hard to try to negotiate reasonable contracts, but, a lot of these costs are, benefits, and it just keeps going up and up, so, we're trying to get as reasonable, but like I say, I don't want to pay any more than anybody else does. Those are contractual agreements that we agreed on, and we have to live by them. So, any comment? Yes, Mr. Cody.
Yeah, I try not to pay too much attention to social media. Unfortunately, in this day and age, that's where the majority of the taxpayers in the town of Coventry are getting their information. And some of the information that's being put out on social media is accurate. I want you to know that. It's not all smoke and mirrors from people who aren't happy with a tax increase. There are actually taxpayers out there that attend these meetings and put the correct information on social media. But then there's people that don't come to the meeting. And I saw a post one night. They were talking, a gentleman said we should go to the next council meeting, drag all the council members out of their seats, beat them within an inch of their lives, and then force them to resign.
I'm glad I didn't read that.
Here I am. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you, except here I am, and if anybody thinks this is an easy seat to sit in, next time there's an election, throw your name in the hat, because it's not so easy sitting up here and having to make decisions that you know are going to affect not only the entire town, but people in my family. I sit here and I look out at Kathy Patnote, who's the chairman of the school committee, and Chairwoman, I'm sorry. And we're talking about a zero-based budget and how that would devastate both sides of the equation. And Kathy's sitting there shaking her head, yes. And that affects my grandchildren. They both go to school in the town of Coventry. You know, listen, I don't want a 4% tax increase. I'm, like most people in this town, about at the end of my rope. And I can't work any more hours than I do. I physically cannot work any more hours than I do. So I understand what people are talking about when they talk about tax increases year after year after year. But the contracts were signed. We have to honor our word and honor those contracts. And we signed on to the debt. We have to cover our debt services. Listen, if we could turn the clock back 25 years or 30 years in the town of Coventry, I can guarantee you that nobody sitting up here now would allow it to get to this point if we were in control 25 or 30 years ago when this problem started to occur in this town. Because it's not a problem that's took place overnight. Unfortunately, it's not a problem that's going to solve itself overnight either. And this council is going to be charged with making some tough decisions that are going to affect everybody who lives and pays taxes in the town of Coventry. But that's what we signed on for. But I don't want anybody who's sitting here tonight or watching on those cameras to think that it's easy to sit here and make decisions that you know are going to affect the lives of 37,000 people that live in this town. Because it's not an easy seat to sit in. And again, if you think it is, there's elections in this town every 2 years. Don't be shy, step up. Step up. If you got a better idea, bring it to the table.
I do gotta make
Thank
a
you.
comment that you mentioned about people wanting to drag us out. I feel so much more protected. Look at the size of the police officer we have with us tonight. No one's gonna bother us with you. But that being said, are there any other comments? Yes.
You're talking about our town sergeant in the back of the room. He's here every week.
Ed, I just want to ask, at our last meeting, last Monday night, you said you were going to have a sewer plan presented, a sewer plan budget?
I have a working sewer budget that we have. I've got handouts if.
No, because we're supposed to be voting, I mean, we need to see what,
Not on, not
oh,
on.
I understand this,
Not on that
but
at this point.
this,
The sewer budget is predicated on what happens with this budget. That's part of the problem with the sewer budget. So we have to wait till this piece is done, and then we can move forward on that. But until we have a finalized budget here, I don't know,
I
we
think
can't
need to work
finalize
those
that
numbers
budget.
in. I think that, and we're not going to have the Auditor General until what, the beginning of May to come before this council? I mean, we've got a lot. I mean, you're asking us to pass a budget, but we have all these uncertainties with sewers. I mean, you could be adding additional fees onto the taxpayers.
We are adding nothing onto it. We are simply basing it on our current assessments as well as our current sewer use fees. There is nothing on there. There will be no increases on any of that until after a sewer use fee study has been conducted and all
Is that
all
sewer
aspects
use
are brought to the
Is
council.
that sewer usage fee study part of this budget to pay for that?
No, it's built in, part of it is built into this, yes.
Into this budget?
There's professional services in here which would cover that study.
How much is that?
We've got 50,000 built into that for professional services.
And where is that? What department?
It's not in there, it's in the sewer budget,
It's in the sewer budget.
because it's a sewer fund. It's sewer cost, it is not part of our budget. It's one of the things that's happened in the past, there's never been a sewer budget. We actually have one, it will be predicated on finalizing this one to know whether or not what we've got, and then from there moving forward, we've actually got line items in it to cover the cost, the everyday cost that up until this point have been covered by the general fund. They'll be part of this budget.
So the sewer fund is not part of this particular budget.
No, it is not. It is a separate entity in itself. It doesn't get voted on as part of this. It is entirely separate and apart from our operating budget. It is an enterprise fund.
Okay. Any other questions, comments?
Mr. Manager, could you please review for us where we stand right now? If we go with the school committee proposed budget and your proposed budget, where are we at the cap?
If we went with their full proposed budget in mind, we'd be over the cap.
Over the cap?
Over the cap.
Where would we be? And how many dollars does that amount to? Is that the $100,000?
With the $100,000 that I recommended removing from their, or withholding from their request, it puts us $80,000 under the cap, or at 3.89% more or less on the levy increase and a 3.5% tax increase. But to provide the whole $100,000 in their original request would put us over the cap.
Okay, and you had also recommended or put out some feelers about some potential decreases that you were looking at in the municipal budget. Are they still on the table, off the table? Where do we stand on that?
We have gone through over everything, and we are at the bottom line on where we are right now with that budget. We've reduced down. What you saw Monday night was a reduction of over $200,000 from the previous one on the amounts that we were able to reduce further on this budget. So we have brought this budget down by over $1.3 million over what the original requests were in the original amounts. So we've dropped this one dramatically.
Okay, so, yes, Councilman Bacon.
Are we going to be sending out a mailer to all the taxpayers?
We are going to do a mailer this year. We're looking at that, as well as the reminder ad that we did last year. We did the reminder ad only last year. We're looking at doing both to try to get more people involved and hopefully attend the FTM and the all-day referendum.
Okay.
I'm actually I was hoping that's why we've done what we've done on all of these work sessions after every meeting instead of just the normal. And I'm saddened to look out into the public and see how few people we have here. This has been week in, week out. We have given the most difficult challenge on this budget is to know what the public feels, how they feel. I'm not going to judge my decisions based on social media and a couple of people that may be posting or may not be posting on there. We need feedback from the public. These meetings are the feedback that we need, and this has been a lack of feedback to assist us in making any kind of decisions to move anywhere other than where we've moved at this point. So I'm highly disappointed in the turnout that we've had, and even the numbers of people viewing. If you look at the YouTube stats, those numbers have been barely 100 on a meeting. So those numbers are lowest, with 27,000 registered voters in the town that are able to vote on this budget come May 16th. So
And most people do not know that they can vote on May 16th. So I think
we are going to saturate everything that we can and get it out there.
Could we ask the schools to put it out on their listserv?
That would be up to the school. We can ask them. I don't know what they want, but that's fine.
Yeah, I think
Kathy?
that's a good idea.
There was going to be an email to all of our listservs telling them the date.
Excellent. So
In all the polling locations? Okay.
Okay, great. So we
And
wanna
maybe,
make it-
could we have links to the budget also, just so in case, when that email goes out, links to the budget?
oh yeah, they'll be
Thank you.
on there for where to go to. The budgets, the presentations, they're on the websites.
We are trying to give the public as much opportunity to get involved as we can. I mean, but we do have to move forward and present a budget that'll pass. And this is our first time with the financial town meeting and the all-day referendum. So this is uncharted territory for us too, and we won't open it. It's a success. We want the people to come out and vote on this. Okay, with that being said, if there's no other questions from the council or comments, I'd like to open up public comment to anybody from the audience. Just please give your name and address, and I would ask that we just hold to the 3 minutes, please.
My name is Richard Williams from 2980 Flat River Road, Coventry, Rhode Island. I have a question on page 14 of the budget. It says former police station. There's $16,330 going to that. I thought we were going to be closing that and selling it.
We still need to maintain heat and electricity in that building, and even once it's been decommissioned, we still have to maintain that in there so it doesn't deteriorate. So that's why that's in the budget to cover that. And again, that's only the anticipated for the year. I mean,
And there hasn't been a decision on what's going
What
to
happens to the building yet.
We haven't.
We should be getting rid of that building. We have to get rid of some of the excess buildings that we have to cut down the maintenance cost. Empty buildings we should not have. Like, there's a few others that we should be getting rid of too. And that can go toward any of these extra costs.
I agree with you. I think we should be doing a study of every piece
Every
of
buil-
property
yeah.
the town of Coventry owns, and if we don't have children playing on it every day as a playground, or somebody living on it, it should be on the market and be put back on the tax roll.
Yes, that's what I agree to. There's also one other thing. It has nothing to do with the budget. It's something I've read in the paper about our ROTC plan they got. They're issuing guns. They're going to use a Coventry High School gym for target practice. They're going to have a special thing in. They're going to shoot in the Coventry High School gym. That sounds pretty ridiculous to me.
This is the first I've heard about it.
I've read it I even got the paper right here. That sounds very ridiculous. It sounds unsafe, because they always talk about safety in the school. That
Yes,
sounds like
officer.
the most stupid plan.
Right?
All right, can I just say that you probably, I don't know anything about it, but you
Wait a minute.
probably want to go to the.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, they're not real guns.
They're not real guns. They're airsofts. They're airsofts. They're not pellet guns. They're
So we're not gonna-
airsofts.
We're not going to argue or get a point with, we're just going to,
Well, I think just for clarification, because that would scare folks if they thought real guns were up at the high school.
There's also one other thing. When I was in high school, they wouldn't let you go on the gym floor with regular street shows. But now they have these air guns or whatever they're going to drag across the floor is all right. It seems ridiculous. And I also heard that we're going to do drones or something. I don't think we need that added cost to the schools, the drones. We don't need drones, because the main reason drones are used is mainly for observation and spying. They've tried it for packages and other stuff, and it hasn't been working out that good. But I don't agree with either one of those things.
Is it
That's all I want to say.
drones on the town side or the school side?
School
School
side.
side.
School
Yeah,
side.
Mr.
ROTC it is, I think it still is.
Mr. Williams, I understand your point of view, but those comments should be made directly at a school
that's what I was
committee
gonna
meeting,
say.
because the town council does not have authority over what the schools do with their money or don't do with their money. So that's a good question to ask at a school committee meeting, or to speak with the superintendent of schools about your concern.
okay, point.
Okay, thank you very much. That's all I want to say. I just want to show my concern, that's all.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Is there anybody else in the audience who'd like to say something? Yes, sir. Name and address for the record, please.
Bradford Mayor, 360 Hope Furnace Road. Hello. I just had a question about the hypothetical. First off, well, I believe both sides have done a good job with the budget. I'm going to vote to pass it when the time comes. The hypothetical that you've been throwing out there about zero budget, zero base, zero increase, that would only be until a budget is reworked and voted upon again, correct?
No, that was just to give you an example of what it would be like. Now, if the budget didn't pass, we would maintain what we have until we worked out another budget and presented another budget.
Right, so it might only be like zero for like a month or two or something.
Well, it wouldn't even be zero. Maybe you can explain it better. It wouldn't even be zero. It would be the existing budget that we have now.
The existing budget remains in effect until we get a new budget. We have scheduled the FTM to give us enough time for a month and a half before the end of the fiscal year to go through the process and do what we would need to do to bring another budget in front of the public. If that happens, and if it was voted on and approved at that point, then that zero would never occur, because we've got an actual budget before the end of the fiscal. So that would only be in the effect of if we go beyond the current fiscal year without a new budget that's been approved.
We were just giving that zero, just to give the hypothetical situation, what it would be like if the budget wasn't approved, what services and so on we would have to get rid of if the budget didn't pass. I just want to be straight up
Okay.
with all the taxpayers.
So it only stays zero if like it kept getting infinitely voted no
Correct. If it was infinitely voted no,
Yeah.
then it would stay at that zero increase.
Okay.
So we
Right.
would be forced to live within the same current
Okay,
levy that we have today.
Right, and under state law, as well as I believe our charter, you can send out tax bills. You cannot collect any more money than you collected last year, and that money can only be spent in twelfths because there are 12 months in a year. So you can only spend that in twelfths. So at the end of the month, if you can't make payroll because of the current contract and the current pay raises that are called for, then you start operating in deficit at the end of the first month, which is against the law in this state. A municipality can't operate in deficit. So I don't know where that leaves us, but it's certainly not in a good place.
all right, thank you.
Thanks, sir. Are there any other comments, any other questions? Seeing none, hearing none, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
You have a second?
I second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, folks.